Anthony,
Chris.
thank you so much for being with us today.
No, man. Thanks for having me, man.
How much does environment play into a person's inner peace?
Oh, you think about, right, I at least use it for myself. As a kid that grew up in Germantown, predominantly black neighborhood, right? Not a lot of resources. That environment can affect a person, right? It can shape how you think, how you look at the world around you, how you look at the people around you, how you look at people that don't look like you. And that environment could really change a lot for you and your trajectory pretty much based off of how it plays a part in your life and how it shows up in your life every single day. Environment it's so important for safety, within yourself and how you interact with the world. Environment is very serious.
How incumbent is it upon us, the people who live in a community, to be responsible for our environment?
I mean, it's your community is your community, and when you treat it that way, right? Our environment, we have to be the stewards of it, right? In a lot of ways. So even though outside forces can play a part in that every day, but it is our job to also care about that community and to make sure that we're playing a part, that environment and that community around us is benefiting.
What does stewardship mean to you?
Uh, Curation, involvement. Stewardship means like what part am I playing and how I'm doing it. So yeah.
What was the biggest thing that you learned having experience living in areas with lots of open land and then places with, more urban, living overseas, traveling? What was like the biggest takeaway for you of what makes an environment a place of peace?
Oh man. One, taking a kid from Philadelphia, inner city, to a place like Germany, and showing him that the world, my world doesn't stop at the county line, right? My world it can be wide, it can be broad. So I feel like having that shaped so much about how I looked at everything around me, because up until that point, I didn't see anything else. I just saw the typical, the standard, right? The lack of resource, the lack of community support, the lack of all these things. And then I go somewhere where now it's very different. There's trees, right? There's open air. There is community. There's all these things that played a part then. So yeah, that changed things, right? And then coming back to that also then changes like, oh, wait a minute. The world is different, and the world can be different for the people now that I'm seeing here, because we could have that, you know? So yeah.
What was the biggest difference you saw in the way that your local German person would care for their community as opposed to the local Germantown person would care for the community?
Well, the thing is that I feel like when living in a Germany, a town, right, people have agency, right? People have autonomy, so they're able to, they're given, the agency to say, hey, this is my community and I have the things, and we rely on each other. Everybody's farmers or people, or everybody works in town. Everybody knows each other, things like that, right? So we could go out and get what we need and we can bring it back, kind of hunter-gatherer situation, right? Where in Germantown, growing up, acting like the 90s compared to it now, very different now, right? Germantown 90s where there was not a lot of resources. And when you have a scarce mentality within a community, nobody wants to hunter and gather and bring it back for everybody else. You want to bring back what you find for yourself, and you want to survive. Survivability is that important.
Do you think that we in America do enough to care for our communities?
No, 100%. I believe now, don't get me wrong, I believe part of it is on us, right, to fight for it and do things to better it. But I also do believe that it is up for the local government, right, to take care of its citizens, right? Now, I'll put it out there. This might not be the views of the employer that I work for, right? And I'm not speaking on behalf of that, but I'm speaking on a behalf as somebody advocating for social justice reforms and things that at the end of the day is I believe we should have access to healthcare. We should have access to education, no matter what ethnicity you are, no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from. Everybody should have the same access. And I 100% believe it's up for the government to give that.
Is your general citizen, somebody who isn't in leadership, doing enough to care for the community in this country?
We have outliers, but I think overall the system creates a space for people that may not be focused on helping the community have a space. And I don't think it's created enough for the people that truly care in our government, that truly wants the best for the people to have space.
Do you think that we should scale reform like you're talking about to the highest of power at a federal level, where it's kind of like there's so much to manage, but there's also a lot of power there? Or do you like the idea of more, like let's take the county of Philadelphia. Let's give Philadelphia a lot of power to reform because this is the people who live here. The people in government in Philadelphia will be seeing that every day. What's your take on that?
I mean, yes. I mean, that sounds great, right? But so much of that is also shaped with how the country itself operates. So I feel like even though in reality that sounds great, but I think as how America operates today, that would be very difficult. You know what I mean? I think at the end of the day, there is a large playbook that we play from, we operate from, and every state picks kind of their part of that. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Do you think people are only willing to help others when they themselves have abundance? Or is it possible for somebody else to be sharing that scarcity you were talking about earlier and still help?
No, I mean, let's look at just the past, let's say 4 months with SNAP benefits and all these other resources being cut from our federal government, right? What did the everyday common person do? People showed up. You look at the way Philadelphia has showed up for other Philadelphians, right? So many of us don't have. But at the same time, it's so many, those same people that are showing up also used to not having, right? So at the end of the day, they're showing up because they know that we have to. So I believe that on average, people will show up. If you give them the space, you give them the opportunity, people will show up.
What's the best way to give someone space and opportunity to show up?
Seat at the table, a voice, right? So much of the conversation is happening without the everyday person at the table. So the best way to give them space is to bring everybody to the table. Have a talking stick. Everybody, we're just going to pass the talking stick around, you know? And I think having that where people, when you see a table full of people with different ideas, different walks of life, different understandings, but could come together and have a conversation, we'll start seeing change.
Can you create a line between the nonprofit board that makes all the decisions internally? Oh, we got $5 million and this is how we're going to spend it. 10 people make that decision versus what you're kind of talking about, where everyone in the community gets to get together and has a voice, but it doesn't become gelatinous so that things aren't like moving and nothing's kind of getting done. Where's the line, and how do you kind of like, deputize certain leaders or whatever? How do you create a system that everyone is heard, but things are also getting done at a decisive level?
So I'll use Northwest Mutual Aid, my family's organization, NorthWestMutualAidCollective in Germantown, as the perfect example of this, right? We've been praised about this multiple times, where if you look at our board and all of our volunteers, our community members, you look at my mother, you look at my father, you look at me, we're all from the community that we grew up in. If you look at the people that we partnership with, they're all people that are coming from dissimilar communities. When you have that, yes, obviously we're a nonprofit, so things have to be ran in a way, right? Where we have to have a board, we have to have committees, we have to have stakeholders, and we have to have people sitting in these very specific situations or seats, right? But when you have people that on that board from the community, then at that point, what you're going to see is that that connectedness there, that connective tissue that I think a lot of nonprofits are missing. If you look at the average nonprofit in the world today, or at least say the United States, isn't most likely they're not from the community that they work in, right? They're not from the community they live in. So that means people are coming from the outside community to work in this community, right? So then that's when you see savior complex, narcissism.
Yeah.
You see all of these things because the people that are on these boards, the people that are on these committees, the volunteers are coming in to help these people, right? Help those people. I'm here to help you. And then they go home. Where if you look at our board, they don't go home. They go back to their block that they went 2 blocks down to help us. Right? So this is their neighborhood. There's more skin in the game. There's more need, right? Of I'm helping these people because these are my community members. That changes the thing. So if answering that question, that's where I like to use that as an example, is because we're doing that.
I love that. Or the amount of times I've been, volunteering with a nonprofit, and we're bringing in this like financial advisor from like 3 states away, and we're paying him like $200,000 a year or something.
Yeah.
Or advisors or consultants, or people that are making like weird decisions with fundraising to like buy like tables that we didn't need, or like a fish tank that we didn't need. It's like, but like the people who are actually on the ground level, the grunt soldiers who live there, are like, why are we making these decisions? But
you know who our advisors are? The social worker, the doctor, the lawyer in our community. That's who the people we use as advisors.
Wow.
They're giving us, so we're working on a project, like a medical project. And at that point, we're using doctors and nurses from that neighborhood. That's from the neighborhood we're working in, that maybe work at a local hospital. They're advising us medically, like, oh, this is what I think you should do. We're working with the social worker on helping us to put together, like, oh, this is how you should work with this social worker at the hospitals, or this social worker at, in the government office. So at the end of the day, it's community. It's a community helping a community, working with a community. And that's where the line is.
What would you say to a, upper middle class soccer mom out in Bucks County somewhere who, she sees the pain and suffering in Kensington here, and she really wants to help? What's a way that she could help without it kind of being that, savior swooping in complex, or tapping into that narcissism we were talking about? What's a way that people can help if they aren't actually living in the community?
The crazy part is I always tell people, help the people in Bucks County. Right?
I knew you were going to say that. I love it.
That's the first one. Help the people in Bucks County, right? Because at the end of the day is low income is not a Kensington, North Philly, Germantown thing, right? There's low income people all over. There's low income people in every community. You cannot, in the way our world is designed, right? The capitalistic system that we all live in, you have to have the have and the have very littles. You know what I mean? So guess what? Hey, mom, help the people in your community that need you. But if, hey, your heart's desire, you want to help the people in Kensington, know what you do? You bring resources. You say, hey, what resources do I have that I can bring to the table and I can show up that's going to give these people that I'm trying to help autonomy and agency, and how do I help them do that? That's how that mom in Bucks County helps. She brings her resources. Most nonprofits, we don't need more people starting a nonprofit to help more poor people, right? We need more people saying, hey, how do I bring the resources to the people that's already boots to the ground that's doing the work right now?
Wow. Oh, I'm going to let them marinate for a second. Great answers, man.
Thanks, man.
That's so funny, man. The amount of so I'm a film director, so the amount of I've had a lot of nonprofits hire me to make the poor trash bag that's rolling across the street, and the poor sad poor person who's sitting on the crying, and we're here to help.
Yeah,
and
we don't need
that image. We don't need that.
We don't need that, man. And there's some of the strongest people I know are the moms with 4 kids that work 2 jobs that has very little. Or their dad that gets up every day to get on the trash truck and goes around the neighborhood knowing that, hey, how am I going to get my kid through college? The janitor. Do you know all the everyday, some of the poorest people that when we think of what we consider poor and low income, right, are sometimes some of the richest people when it comes to character and fight and grit. At the end of the day, and community, right? in community, they don't need you to look at them like, oh, they can't do it. They can do it. The problem is that we have not given them the resources and the opportunity to do it. So how about that? If we want to change it, let's give them the resources. Because most people, you offer them a job that pays them a living wage. You offer them food that isn't filled with GMO and chemicals. You offer them a way to provide for their family. They're going to take it. Mm-hmm. They're going to take it. They're not going to turn away from that. That's what they want.
In a world that is capitalistic and there's haves and have-nots, what does equity mean to you?
Ooh. Equity is such and it's so funny because it's a word that we use so much in nonprofit, right? That I also feel like sometimes we get away from what I think the true meaning. Equity is giving the opportunity, right? Give the opportunity. And equity providing the chance to pull your own self up by giving you the same resources and the same thing that, you know, somebody else might get. How about we give everybody, let's make it a playing field where everybody is getting the same level of resource, same level of access. Let's give them the same equity in this moment and then see what comes from that.
In your picture of providing an opportunity for everyone, at least a chance for everyone, I like the way you phrase that. Does that ever include taking opportunity away from other people to kind of level the playing field?
No. 100%. Everybody can survive with having their own. We don't need to take from anybody else. That's how we got to the point where we're at, right? You have to take from somebody to give to somebody else. That's how capitalism works, right? You have to take, there has to be somebody you could take from and remove a resource from. When in reality, no, let's think about food sovereignty. Right? What is food sovereignty? Food sovereignty is we're giving that access for people to have access to food that is beneficial, healthy, and also going to give them a chance to provide for their table every day, right? So meaning that, hey, we don't need to take a, supermarket from you. We need to be able to maybe for the people in this neighborhood, we need to create a way for them to access food. Like, hey, all this land that we have in Germantown, all these community gardens that we have, how about we make community farms where people now have access to come get fresh food, right? So at the end of the day, we don't need to take from any. We have plenty space. We have plenty opportunity. We have plenty of the things that we need. The problem is we're just not giving it. Because if we do give it, and if we do put everybody on the same playing field, does our capitalist system work or does it fall apart?
Wow. Big questions.
Big answers.
The history hobbyist of myself, looks at socialist or communist regimes that just did not work. And it ended up creating just a worse haves and have-nots, ultimately scaling that. But what you're talking about is like, I think it's a feeling. I think it's like, if you have that to give and you don't, it's to maintain a feeling of, it could be power. It could be like to keep things. But for me, I love to give because I love the feeling it gives me. Like I get something out of giving. That delights me to serve or to donate to my church or my nonprofits. Right. But what you're talking about, I think that, it does capitalism could open the doors for people to get a feeling of delight in hoarding and keeping. But
yeah, man, it's like, can you imagine what food insecurity today would look like if we said, hey, every lot in North Philly, right? We have every lot, the land bank gives these lots to the people to manage a garden, right? So we're going to say, hey, these lots that are available that are nobody's doing anything with, instead of us building an apartment building, how about we actually build a community farm, right? Or how about if we're going to build apartments inside these lots, how about on the roof we build a community garden, right? And we give people access to it.
And you're putting people in charge of something.
Exactly.
This is your garden.
Yep.
You take care of the front, and it gives them a sense of not just like taking, but like also giving back, also cultivating.
Yeah, have a program where, hey, we have this lot, If you want to use it for a community garden, you have to take so many hours of classes taught by a farmer that looks like you, right? So now this farmer can now teach you how to grow basic essentials, right? And now you say, hey, we put you in to the city and this program, right, where we're now able to provide this lot for you, and we'll put your name on it, and people on that committee on that block, like how we have block captains, and now we're able to say, hey, the block captain can appoint or help manage this, right? And then the people on the block can have autonomy to that. And they can come and they can work in that lot. They can grow food for the people on their block, and you can walk away with something.
What steps is Germantown and Philly taking towards kind of attempting to build this picture that you're talking about?
Problem is that the people are trying to take that. The city, I don't think, is always allowing. And it's just like typical city in America, right? It's the people. If you go, there's plenty of community farmers within Germantown and North Philly and South Philly, and the list goes on. I know plenty of people doing really great work that know how to work the land. Can't get land, can't get access to the land. And if they do get access to the land, they get put into these weird, like, corrupt mortgage situations where now you're on a mortgage and you can't get out of it, and it's really corrupt. And to save you the time, we're not even going to go into that. But the fact of the matter is that happens, right, in the city of Philadelphia, where now you have black and brown farmers, Hispanic farmers trying to be able to get land that they can be able to cultivate for the community. And they can't get the land because it's all caught up into this system where a developer could easily get it with no problem to build an apartment building or a house that most people in that block can't even afford to live in.
I'm so lucky. I rent a house in Brewery Town, but they put up these ridiculous, the storage container buildings.
Yeah.
And they all have mold issues in like 2 years.
Yeah.
And, like, those holes in the wall and like
throwing them up cheaply.
And kids are paying like $2,800 a month for these.
Yeah, it don't even look like it belongs in the neighborhood.
But it's got this, for some reason, there's this trendy attractiveness that people are coming down from Bucks County to move into these storage containers.
There you go. Get access to the city right there, and you get this new happening spot while everybody around you on the block is struggling to keep up with their mortgage or the taxes because you just showed up. So the people think of the grandmoms and the seniors that worked their whole life to now live on this block, that now can't afford this block, that they paid their hard-earned money for, that they worked their whole life for, to be able to get this house. And now this grandmother on a fixed income can't be able to keep her house because...
Well, it's trendy for white people to move into the neighborhood now.
Of course. I mean, it's cool, right? Everybody wants the hood, but we want a cool version of it. You know what I mean?
And then in like 5 years, they're like, I'm out. I'm like, kids' time, so then time to get the dog and
all the places that were very unpopular, now everybody wants. But when we had it and there was no resource, then all the other things, now all of a sudden it's the new happening spot, It's the new happening spot.
Well, black people were always doing it before it was cool. Right?
I mean, because we had no choice.
I love these ideas, this picture, this vision, ambitious vision. Talk to me about practical impact. How do you take an idea, a vision, and actually see meaningful change happen?
First, skin in the game. First, you have to be somebody that, one, you care about the community because maybe you're from the community, of the community, or something along that lines, right? Start there. You have a group of people that actually care and that are here because they're not getting anything out of it other than the fact that they're just doing the right thing. They're making sure that grandmom or that granddad or that veteran don't go without food or don't go without their resources. They just care because it's the right thing to do. You start there. Once you start there, then you start figuring out, how do we move forward to the next step? And that's the one thing about nonprofit work is I'm constantly focused on what's the practical impact? What am I going to do and how does that help the situation, right? Northwest Mutual Aid, so I'll tell you how we started to compost our waste material, right? Practical impact, because we recover food, 33,000 pounds of vegetables a month currently today, right? Out of that 33,000 pounds, 600 pounds of that might go to the landfill, right? No fault of our own because we're recovering food. So most likely we might get a pallet of lemons that might be bad or bad asparagus by the time it gets to us, And guess what? I'm not giving that to an elder because if I'm not going to eat it, why would I give that to somebody else? So what do you do with it, right? We think of climate change. We don't think of low income. We don't think of black and brown neighborhoods. But low income individuals and black and brown neighborhoods are usually the first line of defense when it comes to climate change. Why? Incinerators, landfills are in our neighborhoods. If you go across the country and you look up a landfill, it's most times a low income neighborhood is within 10-mile radius of it. A lot of people don't think about that. Why? It's cheaper for the land there. Nobody's going to notice it. Nobody's going to pay attention, right? You don't see a landfill in suburban neighborhoods. You don't see incinerators in suburban neighborhoods. Why not? Why is that not happening, right? So at the end of the day, it's a practical thing for us to do is say, hey, if we have all this waste, instead of us sending this to the landfill, 600 pounds of vegetables a month to the landfills, that's going to affect our neighborhood, what do we do with it? Find something practical. We compost it.
The conspiracy theorist is coming out of me now. Do you see any potential linkage between, because it sounds like we're generating, we have more food than we need. We make so much food, and so much food goes into the waste. But anytime anything is transported or changes hands, there's profit to be made. That we aren't kind of like as a collective taking more time to like, hey, no, there's definitely more ways that we can repurpose. And I know those things like, like if chicken goes bad, it needs to go. But like a shelf life of things. But do you think that there could potentially be like an interest in maintaining that flow of food to the trash heap for profit?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's hard to market homes if they're near a landfill, right? So there's a profit to be made there, right? Keep the bad things out of wealthy, well-established neighborhoods. There is a profit to that, right? At the end of the day, and then it comes down to people just considering other people, empathy, right? If it's not affecting me, is it affecting somebody else, right? But when you are the haves out of the have-nots and have-littles, why you don't have a reason to think like that, right? So at the end of the day, there is a big profit there. And I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think that's just generally kind of how our government and our society works. Not just our society, but a lot of societies, right? It got to go somewhere. You're right. You think about Flint with nobody thought about the pipes in the ground in the neighborhood in Flint, Michigan, right? Nobody thought about that. But it's the same thing if you think of dumping. Illegal dumping is well known, especially in Philadelphia and all around. Where is legal dumping predominantly at? Low-income neighborhoods. Why? Because it's profitable and it's better to keep it out of the neighborhoods that don't look like you. So at the end of the day, when you start to break this down, it is profitable, right? It's easy to get rid of. It's cheaper to get cheaper land so we can build a landfill here. It's easy to have incinerators in this neighborhood. It's easier to just dump our trash there because nobody's going to miss it, and it keeps us out of our neighborhood, and we get to sell our neighborhood as clean streets, wealthy homes, great neighbors, great schools. Yeah, it might not be a direct this is profitable, but the talking points and the marketing strategy is profitable. The mindset.
Me and our mutual friend Victoria, we're talking a little bit about how food waste is like awful for the environment. Can you talk to me at all about that? How like repurposing food and like kind of saving it and redistributing or I don't want to use the word salvage, but like kind of reforming food that has life left in it. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you're growing vegetables, right? The beginning of the season, you want to add nutrients to your soil, right? What is that? Topsoil. Where's topsoil come from? Waste, right? So if we want to close the loop as a food bank, composting and then providing compost to farmers within our neighborhood for them to get topsoil that they don't have to then buy. They can just get the waste that we turn into it's all renewable, right? Think of gas, think of gas that we can create out of waste. Think of the diesel oil that we could create out of I forget the gentleman that I was watching on YouTube where I think he's in Virginia. I'm not sure. But he actually ran a car off of plastics. He made oil out of it. I mean, gasoline. And he was able to run that car using plastics. How many plastics that we see showing up in the ocean and everything like that? So so as a food bank, finding a way to turn our waste into somebody else's gold, compost tea, mulch, topsoil, all these things come from these vegetables that we're using. That now, instead of it going to a landfill, can be actually turned into a system we're giving back to farmers that are in our neighborhood, that remember these lots that we could turn into farms. Now that topsoil can go into those farmers, and those farmers can then grow food within our neighborhood. Now you have an increase in food sovereignty, and you have a decrease in food insecurity. Because now what happened? You closed the loop and you gave everybody access. Yep. So at the end of the day that's where we started doing with composting. That's what I do. I'm a composter for the food bank. And that's been my job for the last 2 years, is figuring out how do I lower our waste by making sure that the food gets out to the people. And then whatever we can get rid of, how do I then turn that into a beneficial product for somebody else to create something else out of it?
Wow, what a vision.
It's a lofty one, but it's real.
Oh, wow. Anthony, tell me, your last core value is integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Off the record, we were talking about kind of narcissism creeping into into nonprofits. So I can tell you've worked with a whole bunch of various nonprofits and stuff. Tell me a little bit, as you're pursuing a lofty vision such as turning trash into gold, where does integrity come in, and how can you run a nonprofit, with virtue?
Showing up as my full self, being a man of my word, coming and making sure that the people, when they see me, they see a person that sees them, understands them, and that is not here to do anything other than how can I benefit you? How can I help you here in your moment? So I'll tell you a story how integrity is important, right? We had a client, when I first met him, found out he was a veteran. And when I first talked to him, he told me that him and his dog was sharing food. Mind you, this man, for his country, he gave his life for this country, got hurt fighting for this country. And now he can't even take care of himself. For me to see him and show up for him, and to do it in a way where I don't want anything back from you other than you gave a service to me, let me now give a service to you. That's integrity in my mind. And that's where I'm constantly trying to lead my work with, is that when I show up as my true authentic self. And then I ask that everybody around me do the same. That when we show up for these people, and we don't ask for nothing else other than, can I show up for you?
How does your faith play a role in how you serve your community?
So I was raised Christian, raised Baptist, a good Baptist boy, so no answer I give can ever be short. But it has played a part, right? Where we, it's in Deuteronomy, and I can't remember the scripture exactly, but it talks about giving to the poor amongst the land, right? Where God was telling the people of Israel in Deuteronomy to provide for the poor, to provide for those in need. And that's always been something that's been built into me through my family. My family's always been a give back type of family. That's how Northwest even started, was my parents were helping Germantown Community Fridge in 2020 at the height of COVID. I was working in medical at the time. And so I was going through as a medical worker during COVID. And my family saw the need for our community, saw people that needed them to show up. And my faith has always been taught through my parents of, you give back. We're blessed for having what we have, but it's our job to also give back and then make sure that the people next to you have something as well. Because what's the point of you having everything if everybody around you have nothing? So my faith has played a really big part in that. As I got older, I become more spiritual than I would say religious. Even though I still go to church and I still work in ministry at my church. But a lot of my work is supported by that belief that as a person that calls myself a Christian and calls myself a person that, care about others, that I actually got to show up as that. I can't be a hypocrite. So yeah.
It's almost like I think the Bible speaks about how sometimes you will give and you won't see any results.
Yeah.
But give anyway.
Exactly. Because if you're giving to see results, then why are you giving in the first place? Right? And that goes back to that narcissism and that savior complex. You're not giving because you generally should be giving. You're giving because you want something in return. And that, a lot of times that ego, you want to feed that ego to make yourself feel better. I did this, right? Versus let me give this because guess what? I should. A lot of us are blessed.
Yeah.
When you think about this time of Thanksgiving, a lot of us are blessed. And we shouldn't just show up for people on Thanksgiving to feed them. We get a lot of volunteers that come through on Thanksgiving and Christmas because, they want to let me do something. My family's in town. Yeah, but people are poor and low income 360 days a year, not just around the holidays, So I think the mindset is if I'm giving, I shouldn't ask for nothing in return. I shouldn't be expecting anything. That's weird to have that expectation of something in return.
Oh gosh, it's so hard. I think narcissism is so hard. I really do feel, I really do feel an empathy for certain people who might not realize what they're doing. They might not realize that. I want to do the right thing, but I'm still doing it for the wrong reason, and kind of like maybe it requires Philadelphia Germantown Baptist background to kind of be told, no, you will do this. Disciplining people. It's simpler than that. Just do it because you must.
Well, I mean, a lot of people, you also got to think a lot of people in our society, I don't think we're taught to look inward. Right? In our society, most of us, you think about it, look at the average adult, right? You get to this great awakening period at a certain age where you start to think about your life and who you are and all those things, right? And it's fun that we all go on this crazy journey together at a certain age. But we're not taught to look within ourselves. We're not taught to see how what we're doing is affecting other people. So there's a lot of people that go through the world, that when we think of privilege, right? Something that I've talked about a lot with, because food insecurity and the have littles and all that can be tied to a lot of white privilege and things like that, right? Where to me is well, you've never had to think about it. You've never had to consider that somebody else might be getting affected by your dumping in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
You never had to think that, this Thanksgiving, some people don't have food on their table. Some people have never thought about it. And I'm okay with working with the person that never thought about it and then can openly admit that, hey, I've never considered that, but I'm looking to make a change. I'm willing to work with that person, right? Because that can be a great tool for that person and then go back and share that with somebody else, right? Teach one kind of situation model, right? And I think it's very important that we take a moment to really think about the world, right? It's easy when children in Gaza, it's easy to not think about that. It's happening over there. It's just something over there, versus no, we have family and friends that have family and friends over there. Have that empathy to understand that everything in the world, sometimes bad things happen to other people, and accepting that, hey, maybe I'm not, maybe it's not happening to me, but recognizing that it might be happening to somebody else.
Yeah.
So we can be a better society. And I think we need to, as a society, get on that picture, that same page of how do we start just considering a fellow man? Just consider.
I think it was someone I was listening to a podcast on who said you will suffer in this life, and you can go pursue the pain, or the pain will come pursue you.
Oh yeah.
And you get to choose which. Yeah. So some of us, we can turn a blind eye to our fellow man in suffering for a time, but eventually the pain will come for you also. But if you humble yourself now, if you be open to people who are like yourself, who might be discipling and listen to coaching, and then you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to put even if I haven't experienced food insecurity, I'm going to put myself in a place where I can at least empathize and serve my fellow man somehow.
Yeah. No, I mean, one time I was walking down the street with some friends, and I'm the person that I never walk past an unhoused person without at least acknowledging them. That's so important, right? It's easy for us to see that person, that unhoused individual, as part of the atmosphere. But it's also, imagine how that would feel if that was you, right? We're all one bad month off from being that person.
One bad
if
day.
You ask, right? But the reason why I always say 1 month is because it's 1,000 cuts, right? Yeah. It's a slow burn, especially if you're somebody that has a lot. It's a very slow burn, and that's what makes it hurt even more. But the thing is that I've spoken to so many people that are unhoused, and a lot of the people I've spoken to at one point had a lot of things.
Oh yeah,
had a lot of things.
Oh yeah,
and they're always, the common thing that I always hear is, if I could go back and try this differently, or if I can go back to try that differently. Because guess what? At one point, they was a person that didn't think that they would be there, right? Now, I'm not saying that's for every story, but that's the ones I've heard, right? And it's important for us to notice, in just something as small as noticing them and saying, hey, if they ask you for some change, acknowledge, hey, I'm sorry, I don't have anything. Because you're still humanizing them. You're acknowledging them. And it's important to acknowledge. Because imagine if you're on the street and you're at your lowest point and people don't even acknowledge you. You're invisible.
I like the phrase, how you holding up? Because it's not patronizing, like, oh, are you okay? Like, can I, okay, well, have a good day. Hope things are better for you. But it's also not just like, hey, have a great day. It's like, it's an acknowledgement. It's like, no matter what, we're all going through something.
We're all going through something.
And whatever it is, how you holding up?
Yep. How you look. And I am famous for just taking 2 seconds to just say, hey, my mother and my father always talks about it. And even my mom said as a kid, I was always like that. I would, see someone on the street and I would talk to them going into a Wawa or something. And I'd be like, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Hey, I'm famous for saying, hey, I don't have any change on me, no live cash. I call it live cash, right? But I could buy you a cup of coffee, or I could buy you what I'm buying myself. Yep. I'm getting myself a sandwich and a coffee. I can do the same thing for you, right? At the end of the day, we waste $5 on so many different things. Yeah. This feels like a good way to spend my $5. Yeah.
I feel like so many people, like I used to do this before I lived in the city, and I might have friends that come down, and there'll be this like, oh, there's a person suffering asking for money. There's like this turning of it's like this shame.
The shame.
But it's like, and they're like, oh, I feel so embarrassed for that person. I'm like, no, that's not how shame works. You're embarrassed of you. Like, you're embarrassed of you. Yeah. You feel something.
That's a wild concept.
That you aren't. I know it. Shame is super interesting. But when you. But if so, like what you're talking about, like, look at this person in the eye. Yeah. Say, how are you doing today? Yeah. Like, oh, yeah. Can I get you a coffee? Like, just at least something. I can't give you money because I don't know where that's going to go, but I'm going to get you a sandwich. And like, But so many of us, we're not willing to look within ourselves to address the shame we have inside. Yeah. So we just turn.
But I think that comes down to maybe I'm a person that does that because I skin in the game. I know what it feels like. I might not been in their situation, but I also came from a mother that worked really hard, 2-3 jobs to get me to where I needed to be. And I understand where coming home from school and a couple hours I had to spend for myself and cook for myself and things till my mom got home, easy could have been us. Easy could have been this situation, and it's skin in the game, I know family members that were unhoused. I had family members that were unhoused. I had people that I met on the street and I knew them. And it's like, wow, yo, man, let me get in a car, man. Let me take you somewhere. You know what I mean? I've had people like that, so it's just that, that skin in the game. But at the same time is be decent. Be decent. It takes 0 cents to say hello, right? It takes no money to say hello. Hey, hope you're okay. I pray for you.
Say hello.
Say hello. Because you know what I mean? Imagine the mental workload that affect, that mental effect that has on a person that now is on their lowest moment and people won't even acknowledge them now. People don't even be seen speaking to me. Imagine what that does to a psyche.
I'm at my shelter, and I mean, we were, raised. It's like, oh, all those homeless people are drug addicts. It wasn't until I started, a long time working at the shelter that I learned this guy's super well educated. He comes in, he has an iPad.
Yeah,
he's not on any drugs.
Yeah,
something awful happened to him.
Yeah,
his wife divorced, took the house, whatever. But he doesn't have a house.
Yeah,
and he is like having a rough time.
Yeah. You know how many unhoused individuals are, even if they were on drugs, got started from a medical procedure?
Oh,
I mean,
everyone out here on Kensington is like 80% are not even from Philly. They're like Bucks or
exactly, right? And it could be a situation of like, hey, I've met how many veterans I've met that got hurt or has PTSD from wars or fights, and then they need medicine to be able to help them cope with that, and then they get hooked on the medicine that's given to them, and actually, now it has made the problem worse. Everybody, it's this weird concept that every single person on the street is some kind of drug addict that is just a raging alcoholic, raging drug dealer that's gonna grab your children and break into your house. No, man, that's not true.
And most people out in Kensington, they're not actually here to get high. They're here to get well.
Yeah.
They're just here to function, just to avoid death.
Yeah. I mean, because what's the alternative, right? If you are a person on the streets and you are, most likely if you get picked up, you're going to a lockup, right? You're going to a lockup that the police are putting you in. There's more drugs in jail than there is on the street. So now we're taking somebody that is struggling with drugs to a place where they can predominantly get more drugs. No, man. Like, people don't realize that, man. I tell people all the time, there's more drugs in jail than there is on the street. You ask anybody who's been locked up before, they'll tell you there's way more drugs in jail.
All they need is, $150,000 to go to one of those Belize rehab centers.
Yeah, the White Lotus Hotel. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the reality, and I think that's where we have to change these stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
We have to change the stereotypes. We have to stop believing it, because if we believe the stereotype, it makes it easier for us to ignore them, makes it easier for us to not get involved. Like, so, and not to cut you, one of my things is when I say if somebody on the street and I give them a few dollars, people always go, how do you know they're not going to use it for drugs? That one, not my concern. What you do with it, that's at the end of the day is, as long as I gave it from the kindness of my heart for the right reason, it just is what it is. I can't control what you do. And I hope that at the end of the day, the conviction in you cuts in and says, hey, that guy really wanted me to have this sandwich. He gave me this money outside a while. He really wants me to go inside, and guess what? And if you say, hey, if you are believing the stereotype and you don't trust that if you give them the $1 or $2 that they're going to use it for the right reason, fine. Use your card, go inside and buy them a sandwich.
Yep.
And come back and give it to them.
You can't control people.
Can't.
I feel like it almost taps into the white saviorship, or just say whatever saviorship.
Because there's saviorships of all kinds.
Oh, well, they're going to use this on that, so I have to control where my hard-earned $8 go.
Yeah. I mean, because, and look, there's saviorship of all kinds, right? There's all kinds of saviorship, right? You got saviorship built off of trauma. You got saviorship built off of white supremacy. You got saviorship built, no matter where you come from, right? It's all kinds of saviorship. But the thing is that it's all built off of a stereotype. It's all built off a stereotype. And we have to change as a community and as a society. We have to change our mindset on all of these stereotypes. Every single person walking down the street is not, plus we go to the hood. My whole life has been built off of a stereotype, right? At the end of the day, how many times I've been stopped and frisked, questioned by cops? I own a home in Germantown. I have a job and I pay taxes, right? But it doesn't stop me from, I'm a black man walking down the street at night. I have to be up to something. Or not every single person that is white is a white savior, right? At the end of the day, we have to change the stereotypes. We have to judge people on their actions, and we have to judge people based off of what they show to us. How do they show up? And then once they show up, they told us their color is blue, then their color is blue. You know what I mean?
And they'll show you their integrity.
Yeah.
Very quickly. You can tell. Just all you need is an hour to.
And then the people that got their right motives are doing it for the right reason. Guess what? Then we push those people to the side.
Yeah.
No, you're not part of our community.
Yeah.
You're not part of our community because our community is people that care about the fellow man, care about the community, want access for all, want women's rights. We are those people, right? That want these things. You're not our community.
One of my best buddies at my shelter is she's like 75 or something, and I've been over to her house for a bunch of times. So she's been serving at this shelter for like eight or 9 years, I think, right after retirement or something. And she says it's remarkable how people come to volunteer to serve lunch or whatever, and they are either there for 5 years or 2 times.
Yep.
It's
There's no
one
in between.
or the other.
There's no in between.
It's like you rate right away. She can tell they're gonna stick around.
Yeah. I feel like we need to, as a society, stop making people feel comfortable for being like effed up. Like, I feel like we give people an excuse to be like, well, I mean, they're allowed their beliefs. I mean, yeah, you're allowed your beliefs, but your beliefs also are hindering other people.
Yeah.
To me, I just feel like we need to stop letting people be comfortable for being effed up.
Well, there's that discipleship again. I think there's a loving way to do that.
There's a loving way. We're constantly. I'm constantly trying to figure out the best way of doing it.
We should all go to Baptist church is what we should do.
I mean, look, some of the nicest people I also know is not in church. So there you go.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think as long as we wake up every day and we put the right foot forward, and you care about your community, your fellow man, and you actually care about just being a decent human being today, like those are the people that's my community. Those are the people I'm okay with. Those are the people I want to work with. Those are the people I want to have dinner with. I want to have a drink with. Those are the people, because that's good people. They got good energy.
Amen.
Yeah.
We have good energy.
Hey, we have good energy. I like our conversation. We're chilling, man. We're vibing.
Anthony, what's next for Northwest Mutual Aid Collective?
So what's next for us is we're ending another year. So we made our budget and we're fighting hard to try to figure out how to get over the next hill, but also then how to be great stewards. What we was talking about earlier. Our new Zero Waste Initiative is a big initiative that we're putting out where we're trying to figure out how do we make our food bank more sustainable? How do we make our food bank better for the environment, better for the community, and just trying to figure out how to do this while also reaching more people in the zip codes that we work with. So it's just, honestly, the next step for us is just figuring out what's the next step and how do we expand that properly, right? Because we survived a crazy year with cuts and all of these things, right? How do we take what we learned this year and make it into something better next year? And that's really the goal, man. Just how do we figure out what we did this year? Because this year was rough for nonprofits all around. So now how do we benefit ourselves and the community around us with what we learned this year? So yeah.
Where can we find you and help out?
Yeah. So NorthWestMutualAidCollective.org is our website. All the information on how to volunteer. We're always telling people, volunteer. Get involved. Help us come pack some bags. Help us deliver bags of groceries to disabled seniors in our neighborhood, veterans, cancer patients, patients with cerebral palsy. How do we get the food to them? Think about the people that can't get out to the table, to the community fridge, to the shelter. Those people that are stuck in place. How do we get more food to them? Right? So if you want to come out and help and volunteer to deliver bags of groceries to those people, or how to pack bags for them, right? Or guess what? If you have resources, come to our website, email us, let us know and say, hey, I have a resource that I think could be beneficial for y'all. Can I bring it to the table? That's the best way with food banks. Help us bring resources to the table because that's what we're lacking on.
Anthony, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you, man.
Woo!